I'm going to start off with talking about last week. Last week was probably the most interesting week of my life. On Monday, I was bitten by a shark. 8-foot long, 2.5-meter long nurse shark. And Monday was probably the least stressful day that week. My company, Plain Vanilla, has been growing rapidly. On Thursday, we had to let go of 14 people. That's almost 20% of our staff. Probably one of the hardest days of my career. Very hard to part ways with people you've been working with for such a long time. So today I want to talk about kind of these 2 years, talk about QuizUp, what we've been doing, and talk a little bit about some of the mistakes that we've made during this time. So if we rewind 2 years, in November of 2013, QuizUp was launched. And for those of you who don't know what QuizUp is, it's a very fast-paced trivia game. People compete in Battle of the Wits in kind of quick, snappy trivia battles. A lot of fun. Try it out if you haven't. But the moment we launched, QuizUp became a worldwide phenomenon. We reached the #1 spot in the app stores of 128 countries. It took us a week to reach 1 million users, making QuizUp one of the most kind of fastest growing iPhone apps in history. We saw it kind of instantly. The game went out. It became viral the moment it hit the app stores. And the pace has kept up since then. Kind of looking at the numbers over the past 2 years, we've reached 75 million users, counting kind of everyone who has played QuizUp and our apps in different markets, including our app in China. Those people have played more than 5 billion matches over that time period. And every single day we have around 40,000 new people joining the app. Last week was a bit higher. We had something like 80,000 people joining every day. Went viral in Brazil for some weird reason. And we have 130,000 topics to choose from. That number was 1,000 this summer, but we opened up our doors for anyone in our community to contribute topics. So these are kind of some of the kind of more successful points, but I want to focus on some of the top mistakes that we've made during those 2 years. I want to talk about 3 things in particular. We've allowed some of our teams to grow large, and large teams are a lot more inefficient. We decided to launch a big update to QuizUp with a big bang release rather than kind of small frequent releases like most modern companies do. And then throughout this entire time, we've been insanely focused on growth and prioritizing growth over almost any other things we're doing within the company, including revenue. So when I look at those 3 things, large teams, big bang releases, and prioritizing anything else over revenue, there's just one thing that blows my mind. They're all pretty basic. They're all kind of newbie mistakes. We know that kind of large teams are ineffective. Small teams are what make startups great, what makes startups gonna run much faster than the incumbents. And we've been doing frequent releases for a decade. That's kind of the essence of agile development. And focusing on revenue is the reason we create companies. That's a fundamental business practice, to focus on revenue. So how could this happen? How could a team of very smart people that were doing a lot of things right make such newbie mistakes? And we want to contribute some of that to some kind of a tunnel vision. Kind of while you're in the trenches, while you're running very fast, you sometimes forget to take a step back and kind of look at the bigger picture. So on to the first one, large teams. When we have communications that are very important to teams, they become a lot harder as the team grows. When you have 3 people to a team, there are 3 possible ways that they can communicate. You add the 4th person, and the possible ways of communications doubles. And as teams grow, it becomes harder and harder. You have to add more processes. You have to think about different relationships that are building within the teams. And everything becomes harder. People, in many cases, gonna feel left out. They don't become a part of a lot of the decision making. And this is what happened to us. During one of our team meetings, one of our agile coaches said, "This isn't a meeting, this is a conference." We had 22 people in that team at the moment, and the meeting looked something like this. When you have a group this size, conversations will break out into pockets. You probably know this if you've been at a dinner party. If there are 5 people in a dinner party, there's one conversation going on. When you have 10 or 15 people at the dinner party, the conversation will break up into pods. So we knew this. We knew that small teams are better, yet we made this happen. And we've wanted to figure out why did we allow this to happen. This is the team that launched QuizUp. They all fit together in front of a dinner table. They all shared breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Everything they talked about was known by everyone in shouting distance. And at that time, they didn't realize, very close to the problem. And as the team grew, like the analogy of boiling a frog, it was very hard to take a step back and see all the issues that arose when we were growing. We even had all of those things happen. Like people felt they were not in the loop. People felt that decisions were taken without them. So we realized this. We and since then have taken a lot of strides into making it better. Now all of our teams are small. This is a recent picture from one of our teams. Each team has their own huddle space. We make sure that we spend a lot of time nurturing that team. They have adequate space to do impromptu meetings and focus on the work at hand. We take great care into ensuring that each one of those teams has the autonomy to figure out how they execute on their things. They decide on their workflows, they pull in work, and they run forward with their tasks. We also make sure that each team is fully stacked. We have an iOS engineer, server engineer, Android engineer together working on things so that they don't have to go outside of the team to solve things. So there's mastery within the team. And probably the most important point is that each team has a very clear focus. Each team has a united Northern Star purpose for getting out of bed every morning. That's very clear. So after we realized this, around November 2014, we made sure that each one of our teams are small. So number 2, big bang releases. This is what every single software company did a decade or more ago. You had to print your software to a CD and ship it around the world, and that's why we had a yearly release every 2 years. But we know that that's not the best way to produce software. We know if you develop in iterative and incremental steps, you're minimizing risk. You're minimizing the risk of not understanding your users. You're minimizing technical risk. You're minimizing delays and all of those things. And this is the essence of Agile, why we do sprints and want to release fast. Yet, we knew this, yet we decided to launch QuizUp 2.0, a big update to QuizUp with a big bang release. We put behind it a massive marketing budget of close to $1 million, and we had even this big celebrity endorsement backing us out. And the launch was successful, yet it was very hard on the team. We felt that a lot of our energy was lost. It was so straining. The time that project took was estimated originally for 3 months, but ended up taking 10 months. So it was very strenuous on our engineers. We had one member of the team take a sick leave for 3 weeks after a burnout, and 2 other members left our company completely. So it was very hard on the team. And why did this happen? Like, why did we allow this to happen? We know that frequent releases are better. And we contribute this to kind of the tunnel vision that arose from our original release of QuizUp 1.0. Kind of this once-in-a-lifetime successful release where we got this insane amount of downloads. And rather than attributing kind of that success and the growth of QuizUp to the product itself, the inherent virality of the product, we attributed a lot of the success to this kind of big bang release. We're getting 40,000 downloads on average every day, and we're not on the news every day. We're not on kind of CNN and NBC and Fox News every day, yet the product keeps growing, QuizUp keeps growing. So since May of 2015, we've released QuizUp on average every 15 days. And Better Clint here even has a talk, or had a talk this morning on how we release for Android, how we do very, very frequent releases on all of our platforms. So we learned a lot from this. Kind of we hit our hat, and now we're doing a lot better. So the third point is a little bit different, focusing on growth over everything else. And it's a bit different because this one is still kind of ongoing. We're still kind of in the midst of making this change. We know, everyone in this room knows that revenues are kind of the most important aspects of business. No matter what business you are in, eventually all businesses are valued as a multiple of earnings. If you don't have revenue, if you don't have a profit, your company will die. It's as simple as that. So knowing that, why did we prioritize growth over revenue? And what was the tunnel vision? What were the conversations kind of taking place? In December of 2013, the company raised $22 million. On top of a few other rounds of funding, it brought our total funding to $28 million. And that's an insane amount of money. Have we just decided to go with the status quo and continue the company as we were, that money would have lasted us for 18 years. And you don't raise Silicon Valley money to run your company for 18 years. So we did what we thought at the time was the only sensible thing to do, kind of focus on growth. Just like Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram and all the others. So focusing on growth, growing the company and growing the product. Growing the product means a few things. Getting new users, keeping old users, and then once we have that, focusing on revenue. And we did that. We put all of our resources and energy on getting new users and retaining old users. And even throughout our last 2 years, we always had kind of people working on revenue. We always had a team focused on revenue, yet it was never kind of the company's highest priority. We made a ton of business deals. We had clients like Coca-Cola and HBO, Disney, and a few of others, yet it wasn't the company's highest priority. The highest priority was growth, focusing on getting our app to as many as we could. And we did that. We launched our app all around the world, in market after market. We spent a lot of energy and resources on kind of localization and growing the app, even launching in China. And when it came to retention, I remember during one of our kind of company-wide meetings, we showed this slide and said to the company, day one retention, meaning how many people return after their first day, is a little over 40%. So our app looks like this. We have to fix it. So the entire company was rallied behind fixing that, and we brought that day one retention from 40% up to more than 60% today, which is a massive feat. Yet we were never happy with that. We were always comparing ourselves against insane retention numbers. Facebook has like 99% retention. But thinking about this and looking back, it's not Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and all the others. It's just these companies. Incredible success stories that come out once every 5 years. So had we compared ourselves against any of the other thousands or hundreds of thousands of games or trivia apps out there, we were vastly greater. Yet we were always comparing ourselves against kind of the titans of the industry. And we thought that we had to focus on growth, and putting in something like ads would slow growth. Like, people don't like ads, and that would slow our growth. But all of our tests over the last 3 months have shown us that ads do not affect retention. And had we known this before, it would have been very valuable advice to us. Had we kind of properly resourced this sooner and kind of learned this faster, we would have kind of known this a lot sooner. So now our kind of prioritization looks like this. Our main focus, kind of the entire company is now organized around increasing revenue and then invest those revenues into keeping old users and getting new ones. So as of almost today, or as of now, we had this kind of company-wide meeting just last week. We're just insanely focused on revenue and revenue alone. Like we know that the product is fantastic. We have such an inherent virality to it. We have way better retention than most of the others, not all of the others. And we know this is going to be hard. Kind of rewiring everyone's brain within the company. Like we've been championing growth for 2 years, and now we're championing revenue. So we need to kind of rewire everyone's brain and to focus on this kind of newfound purpose, creating revenue, just like any other company in the world. So kind of summing up, small teams, frequent releases, and the revenue focus. Kind of those are kind of over the past 2 years some of kind of my biggest learnings, and also understanding why we made those decisions and focusing on how to prevent something like this in the future. And I don't think we can completely prevent it, but what we can do is build up an organization that values transparency and just opening up, sharing your mistakes and learning from them. So if I should leave you with kind of one kind of final advice, it would be to kind of help others learn. When you take your time to explain things to others, it deepens your own understanding. Thank you very much.